I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this. Honestly, I was just trying to get my life back on track after spending 5 years behind bars. My name's Jake and my wife's name is Lisa. We got married a few years before I went in, and for a long time I thought we had a solid relationship. She was always a little bitchy, yeah, but I figured that was just her personality. She was fiery, quick to argue, but she seemed to care about me. Or so I believed. When I finally got out, I was determined to rebuild what was lost. I wanted to start fresh, leave the past behind. Lisa was supportive at first, or at least she pretended to be. She threw me a welcome home party and I appreciated that. Friends and family showed up and I was trying to enjoy the moment. I kept telling myself that I earned this, that I deserved some happiness after everything. The party was going well. I was drinking a bit, catching up with old friends and thanking everyone for their support. Lisa was there too, acting a little strange but smiling at the right moments. Still, there was something off about her, like she was hiding something. I brushed it off, thinking it was just her usual bitchy attitude or maybe her being nervous about me being out. But as the night went on, I started noticing little things. Glances she kept stealing, her phone constantly buzzing, and her quick dismissals when I asked about her day. Then, out of nowhere, I got called to the bathroom. I wasn't suspicious at first. I just needed to pee. When I got in there, I saw Lisa's purse on the counter. I'd seen her use it earlier, but now I noticed it was unzipped and there was something sticking out. I hesitated for a second, then reached in and pulled out a small box. Inside was a condom wrapper. That hit me like a punch in the stomach. I felt my heart pounding and my mind froze. I had no idea what I was looking at, but I knew enough. This wasn't just a casual night out. I looked around the bathroom, checking for any signs of what she was doing, and I saw the faint outline of lipstick on the rim of the sink. My head was spinning. How could we'd been married for 2 years and I thought we were happy, or at least pretending to be. I couldn't believe she was cheating on me at my own welcome home party, right in front of everyone. It was like a sick, twisted joke. I felt angry, betrayed, humiliated. How long had this been going on? Who was it? The thought of her with some guy, probably some loser she met online or at the bar, made my blood boil. I didn't say anything right then. I just took a deep breath, put the wrapper back, and left the bathroom. I kept my face neutral, but inside I was shaking. I knew I had to confront her, but I didn't know how or when. All I knew was that this wasn't going to end quietly. That little discovery lit a fire in me, and I knew my life was about to change forever. The rest of the night felt like a blur. I kept circling back to that moment in the bathroom, replaying everything in my head. Every glance she threw, every quick reply when I asked her how her day was. It all made sense now, plus, she'd been acting weird ever since I got out. She was more irritable, snapping at me over stupid things and avoiding me when I tried to get close. That's when I started noticing the little lies she'd tell, the fake smiles, the way she'd brush off questions about her plans. I'd always thought she was just a bitchy woman who liked to control things, but now I saw it differently. She was hiding something big. After the party, I didn't sleep much. I kept thinking about everything I'd seen, trying to piece it together. I knew I couldn't let this slide, especially not after catching her in the act. The next morning, I decided I'd confront her when she got home from her errands. I wanted her to know I wasn't stupid, that I'd seen enough to put two and two together. I also needed to hear her explain herself, if she could. I wasn't sure what I expected to hear, but I knew I couldn't just pretend I didn't find that wrapper in her purse. When she got home that afternoon, Lisa looked irritated, like she'd been arguing with someone or just annoyed at the world. She was wearing her usual tight jeans and a tank top that showed off her cleavage, like she was trying to look innocent but had that bitchy smirk on her face. I met her at the door and she tried to brush past me like nothing was wrong. I blocked her with my arms and looked her straight in the eyes. "Who the hell is he, Lisa?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady but angry. Her eyes widened for a second, then she rolled her eyes and scoffed. "What are you talking about, Jake? You're just paranoid. I was just talking to a coworker, that's all. You know how she's always bothering me about my personal life." She crossed her arms and looked at me like I was the crazy one, but I'd seen too much to believe her bullshit. I pulled out the wrapper I found in her purse and held it up. Her face flickered with a moment of panic, then she quickly recovered, trying to act annoyed. "Seriously, Jake, that's so stupid. You're just seeing what you want to see," she snapped, her voice dripping with condescension. "You're insecure and I don't have time for this bullshit. I was just helping a friend." Her tone was defensive, but I could see the guilt in her eyes. That only made me angrier. How dare she lie so easily? How dare she throw that bullshit in my face after what I found? I pressed her further, demanding to know who it was, how long she'd been doing this, and why she'd even bother lying at all. She looked furious, like I was the biggest problem in her life, and started yelling at me about how I was accusing her of stuff she didn't do. She claimed I was paranoid and that I was imagining things because I was insecure after prison. That's when I snapped. I told her that I wasn't some naive fool and that I knew she'd been cheating on me for a while. I told her I saw the condom wrapper and her nervousness at the party. That's when she finally lost her temper, calling me all sorts of names, saying I was just jealous and that I didn't deserve her. But I wasn't listening anymore. I felt my blood boiling, and in that moment, I realized I'd been a fool for trusting her. All those years I spent trying to fix our marriage, trying to forget the past, and here she was, fucking some guy in a bathroom at the party I threw to celebrate my return. I felt a crushing mix of anger and heartbreak, like my entire world was collapsing around me. I wanted to scream. I wanted to hit something, but all I did was stand there, staring at her, trying to process what I just learned. In her own twisted way, Lisa kept trying to deny everything, but I knew better. I knew she'd been cheating on me for months, maybe longer. That night after she stormed off to her room, I sat alone in the living room. The image of that condom wrapper burned into my mind. I kept thinking about her lies, her bitchy attitude, how she'd lied about everything, about her hearing about my experience, about her supposed innocent nights out. I'd always suspected she was hiding something, but this was a whole new level of betrayal. I didn't sleep that night either. I just sat there, staring at the ceiling, feeling like I was living in a nightmare. I kept asking myself how I'd let her do this to me, how I'd been blind for so long. More than anything, I was furious. Furious at her, furious at myself for believing in a fairy tale. I thought I knew her, but I'd been dead wrong. And now I was left with a choice. I could pretend it never happened, or I could face the truth head on. I knew one thing: I wasn't going to let her get away with this. Not without a fight. The next few days were hell. I couldn't concentrate on anything except that damn wrapper and the images circling in my head. I kept replaying every moment, her sneaky glances, her dismissive attitude, the way she'd lied with such ease. I was furious, but I was also heartbroken. How could she do this to me? After everything I went through, after all I'd sacrificed to come back and try to make things right, she was out there messing around with some guy in a bathroom while I was on the edge of trusting her again. I knew I had to confront her again, but I wasn't sure what I was hoping to get. Part of me wanted her to admit everything and beg for forgiveness. The other part, the one that been buried deep, just wanted to tear her apart and end this marriage for good. Either way, I needed closure, something to make sense of the chaos in my head. One evening, I decided I couldn't wait any longer. I sat her down in the living room, trying to keep my voice calm, but my fists clenched tightly on my knees. I looked her right in the eyes and told her I knew everything. I told her I saw the condom wrapper, that I knew she'd been lying and cheating for months. The silence after that was deafening. She looked stunned at first, then her face twisted into that familiar sneer she always had when she was trying to be the bitchy version of herself. "You're really gonna play that card, Jake?" she snapped. "You think I'm some kind of slut just because I kissed that guy at the bar? Big deal. It's not like I slept with him. I was just talking, all right. It was nothing serious." Her voice was sharp, like she was trying to downplay it, but I could see the flicker of guilt in her eyes. I didn't buy it. I told her that I didn't care if she'd slept with him or not. What mattered was the fact she'd lied and betrayed me. I told her I'd never suspected she was capable of this, but now I was faced with the cold reality that I'd been living with a liar all along. I felt the blood rush through my ears, my mind racing with anger and heartbreak. It was like she was trying to justify her actions, like she didn't think she owed me an explanation. She rolled her eyes, scoffing at me. You don't get it, do you? I was bored, Jake. I was just having a little fun. You've been gone so long and I was lonely. You think I wanted to be with some loser. Honestly, I don't even care. I don't owe you anything anymore. Her words hit me like a punch. That I don't care attitude, that dismissiveness, it was the final straw. It confirmed what I already knew deep down. She wasn't the woman I married. I felt my hands tighten into fists, and I knew I was about to lose control. I told her she could lie all she wanted, but I had enough. I told her I was done with her bullshit, that I was leaving and taking some time to think. I didn't want to yell, not yet, but I knew I couldn't stay in that house with her anymore. She was a stranger to me now, someone I didn't recognize, a woman capable of lying, cheating, and outright dismissing my feelings. That night, I packed some of my clothes, told her I was going to stay at a friend's house, and left. I didn't want to be there anymore with her sneering at me, pretending everything was fine. I felt sick, betrayed, and empty, but I also knew this was the only way I could start healing. I had to put some distance between us, clear my head, and figure out what I was really going to do next. The silence in that house afterwards was almost worse than the betrayal itself. No more yelling, no more fake smiles. Just me, alone with my thoughts, trying to process everything. I kept coming back to that night in the bathroom, that moment I saw that wrapper and realized I'd been played. It made me question everything about our marriage, about her, about what was real, and what was just a lie. I spent the next few days trying to pull myself together, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I had been a fool. I'd believed in her, in us, for so long. Now I saw her for what she really was, a selfish, manipulative woman who thought she could get away with anything. I knew I had to make a decision, whether to fight for the marriage or walk away. And honestly, I didn't know which way to go. All I knew was that my trust was shattered, and I didn't think I could ever see her the same way again. In the days that followed, I found myself constantly second-guessing everything. I'd look at her stuff, wonder if she'd already moved on or if she was planning her next move. I tried to keep busy, hanging out with friends, hitting the gym, anything to keep my mind off the mess I was in. But every time I was alone, the same thoughts haunted me. How long had she been doing this? Did she even care about me? Or was I just some fool she used for a security blanket while she played her little games? One night I decided I needed to dig deeper. I started going through her phone looking for more clues. I wasn't proud of it, but I was desperate. I found some texts from a guy named Ryan. The conversations were pretty explicit, and it was obvious they'd been talking for a while. I saw messages where she was flirting, planning meetups, and even talking about how she was bored with me and wanted something more exciting. That was the confirmation I needed. I wasn't imagining things. Reading those texts made me feel sick. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut all over again. I'd fought so hard to come back after prison to rebuild my life, and now I was faced with this. It felt like I'd been living a lie, and I had no idea how to fix it. I kept asking myself how I hadn't seen the signs earlier, how I'd been so blind to her manipulations. Honestly, I'd always thought she was just bitchy, but now I saw her as a liar and a cheat. That night I sat on the couch, staring at her phone, and thought about what I should do next. I knew I couldn't confront her yet. She was too good at gaslighting, and I needed proof, not just suspicion. But I also knew I had to confront her sooner or later. I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay, not when I had these messages in my hand. The next morning I woke up with a decision. I'd had enough of her lies, her sneering attitude, and the way she dismissed me like I was nothing. I decided I'd have a serious talk with her, one where I laid everything out clearly. I wanted her to know I wasn't fooling around anymore. I wanted the truth, all of it, and I wasn't leaving until I got it. I also knew I needed to be ready for whatever she threw at me, whether it was more lies, denial, or outright anger. That afternoon, I called her into the living room. She looked annoyed, like she already knew what I was going to say, and she had that fake smile ready. I looked her in the eyes, took a deep breath, and told her I had seen the texts. I told her I knew she'd been cheating on me with Ryan, and that I wasn't going to tolerate her bullshit anymore. I told her that I wanted her to be honest, no more lies, no more pretending. She scoffed, rolled her eyes, and tried to brush it off, claiming that I was just overreacting, that it was nothing serious. Her voice was full of that bitchy tone she always had when she thought she was in control. She said I was just jealous, that I'd been gone so long that she was entitled to have some fun. She told me I was paranoid, that I was seeing ghosts. I didn't buy a word of it. I told her I wasn't going to be played for a fool anymore, that I knew her game and I was done with her lies. That's when she snapped. Her face twisted in anger and she started yelling about how I was just insecure, how I was a bad husband for leaving her alone for so long, and how I had no right to accuse her of anything. She told me I was just jealous because I couldn't keep her satisfied, that she was tired of my trust issues and that she'd do whatever she wanted. It was the most disgusting thing I'd ever heard. Her words cut deep, but I stayed firm. I told her she needed to leave, that I didn't want her in my house anymore if she was going to keep lying and cheating. She stormed out, screaming that I was overreacting and that I was the one ruining everything. But I didn't care. I felt a strange mixture of relief and rage. Relief because I was finally facing the truth, and rage because I'd been so blind for so long. I knew I'd made the right decision, but it hurt like hell. Still, I also knew that this was only the beginning. I was going to get to the bottom of everything, figure out what was real and what was fake, and finally take back control of my life. That night, I sat alone again, thinking about all the lies, the betrayals, and how I'd been played. I realized that trusting someone doesn't mean you turn a blind eye when it's right in front of your face. I learned that sometimes the biggest betrayal comes from the person you thought loved you the most. And I swear from now on, I was never going to let anyone treat me like that again. After she left that night, everything changed. The house felt emptier than ever, but at the same time, a strange sense of clarity crept in. I knew I couldn't just go back to pretending everything was fine, not after discovering the full extent of her lies. I wasn't about to let her walk all over me, not anymore. I started planning my next move, trying to figure out how to regain some control over my life. For the first few days, I stayed with a buddy, Mark, who had been through his own share of messes. I needed a place to clear my head, to think without her sneering or her fake apologies. I was pissed, hurt, and honestly feeling pretty lost. But I also knew one thing. I wasn't just going to sit around and be her doormat anymore. I wanted to make her regret everything she put me through. My first move was to gather evidence. I started logging her phone calls, texts, and social media activity. I wanted to be sure I had all the proof I needed before I made any final decisions. The texts with Ryan confirmed what I already suspected. She'd been sneaking around for months, probably more than I realized. Seeing her flirt, plan meetups, and dismiss me like I was nothing made my stomach turn. She lied to my face, dismissed my feelings, and played her games while I was trying to rebuild my life. Once I was sure I had enough evidence, I decided I needed to be honest with her one last time, on my terms. I reached out and scheduled a meeting, telling her I wanted to talk. She was hesitant, probably because she knew I'd found out everything, but she agreed, thinking she could spin her way out of it. Little did she know I was prepared. When she showed up at the cafe, she looked smug, like she still had the upper hand. I didn't give her that satisfaction. I laid out everything I knew about the texts, the lies, the night she was caught in the bathroom. I told her I'd seen enough, that I knew she'd been cheating on me with Ryan, and that I wasn't going to accept her excuses anymore. I told her I was done, that I was filing for divorce, and I wanted her out of my life. Her face twisted in anger, and she tried her best to act innocent, to play the victim. She yelled, called me insecure, and claimed I was just jealous because she was better than me. She told me I was crazy for thinking she'd cheat, that I was overreacting, and that I was the one ruining everything. But I didn't flinch. I looked her straight in the eyes and told her I didn't need her bullshit anymore. I was tired of her lies, of her bitchy attitude, and of being played like a fool. That day marked the end of our marriage, and honestly, it didn't feel like a victory at first. It felt like I'd lost the one person I thought I could trust. The pain of betrayal was still fresh, and a part of me wanted to break down and cry. But another part knew I had to keep going. I had to move on for my own sake. I'd been through hell, and I wasn't going to let her ruin me any further. In the weeks that followed, I started rebuilding my life. I found a new place to live, cut off contact with her completely, and focused on getting my head straight. I knew I'd make it through one way or another, But I also learned some harsh lessons. Trust is fragile and people can surprise you in the worst ways. You think you know someone and then one day you realize they've been lying right in front of you the whole time. Now I look back at everything and realize that I should have ended it sooner. I shouldn't have let her manipulate me, dismiss me, and cheat in my house. I should have trusted my gut way earlier. But it's all part of the process. The pain, the anger, the betrayal, those feelings cut deep, but they also made me stronger. I'm still standing and I'll never let anyone treat me like that again. If there's one thing I want others to take from this, it's that no matter how much you love someone, always trust your instincts. Because once that trust is broken, it's damn hard to fix. And sometimes, walking away is the only way to save yourself. Looking back now, I realize how much that betrayal changed me, how I let it shape my perspective on trust, love, and what I deserve. At first, I was angry, betrayed, and utterly humiliated. The feeling of being played for a fool by someone I loved and trusted tore me apart. But over time, I learned to accept that sometimes the hard truth is the only way to truly move forward. I had to face the fact that Lisa wasn't the woman I thought she was, and I couldn't keep pretending otherwise. Going through this made me realize a lot about myself. I learned I was stronger than I thought, strong enough to walk away from a marriage built on lies. I learned that sometimes the most painful truths are also the most liberating. And I learned that no matter how much you love someone, if they betray you in the worst way possible, holding onto that love isn't worth sacrificing your self-respect. I also saw clearly that I'd wasted too much time trying to fix something beyond repair. All the apologies, all the hope I'd carried, none of it mattered anymore. What mattered was figuring out how to rebuild my life from the ground up, with honesty, boundaries, and respect for myself. Now I focus on me. I go to therapy, reconnect with friends, and work on becoming a better, stronger version of myself. The betrayal stung, but it also taught me to be more cautious, more aware, and more respectful of my own worth. I've come to accept that some people are just not meant to be in your life forever, no matter how much you wish it were different. And that's okay. To anyone else going through something similar, I'd say, listen to your gut. Don't ignore those little signs that something's off. Trust is fragile, and once it's broken, it's nearly impossible to fix. But more importantly, don't be afraid to walk away from what's hurting you, whether it's a relationship, a friendship, or anything else that diminishes your worth. You deserve honesty, loyalty, and respect. If you don't get that, you're better off alone than in a toxic situation. This entire experience was brutal, no doubt, but I'm grateful for what it's taught me. I might have lost someone I loved, but I gained clarity and a new perspective. I learned to stand up for myself, to recognize my own value, and to never let anyone strip away my dignity again. I'm moving forward now, stronger and wiser, with a clear understanding that betrayal is just a part of life, one I refuse to let define me.